I'm concentrating on this area here largely because this is where I've put the masking fluid, and I want you to be able to see these light grasses as we start pulling them out and removing the masking fluid. Oh yeah, before I forget, I must put the central grassy area in down the farm track. You can see just by getting this bristle brush and just flicking up like that. We'll go over again this with dark colour, but that's how easy that is to create some random little grasses just by dragging and flicking. I'm dragging the same colour sideways again with the number 6 brush. Gives a nice hit and miss effect. What I just want to do now is to show you how we create some little short tufts of grass. So you can see I'm just stabbing into the paint, so I've got somewhere between that dark and that light. It's somewhere in between. Again, it's restraint is the order of the day. You don't want to overdo this. It's just lightly flicking the bristles. You can see all I'm doing is pushing it on and flicking it like that. Very, very simple. We'll have a few here because you always have clumps of grass at the foot of the post. I'm just going to go over the outline of the pencil work so that it doesn't stand out too much, but what I think I'll do is just add a tiny touch of light red here, just as if it's the first stages of autumn. Still nice late summer, but just the first red hints amongst the leaves. I'm going to do this quite dark because I want to make sure that the dark on this side of this tree is darker than the dark of that distant tree. Now you can see I'm trying to ensure that we have that lighter colour here against the darker colour background tree. You can see now why I made that background tree rather darker than its mates along the road, so that it would stand out against the focal point tree. It's just at times you need a little bit of pre-planning with watercolour. You've just got to think ahead a little bit. Right, I'm just going to I've made this tree just a little bit bigger to make it a little bit more dominant in the landscape. Just change the shape. But you can do this as long as you don't go mad at it. There's no problem. It's your tree. But can you see from something like this that looks quite complicated, just taking it stage by stage? You've started with a simple horizon, a letter Z for the roadway, and for the most part it's just been random shapes. For the light coming from this direction, incidentally, if you're doing stone walls like this, then the bottom of the stone and the right hand side of the stone would be the ones in shadow, so you do a letter L on its back almost like that, and much the same colour for the right hand side of these posts. Right, now we've taken the masking fluid off. We've got some light areas left on the wall here, on the fence posts, and these grasses here. So I've mixed just a light colour of lemon yellow and a touch of raw sienna. It's given us sort of a greeny yellow. So I'm just going to tone them down ever so slightly. They're still going to stand out as light areas. Right, now the light yellowy colour has dried in, what we can do is take the rigger, and I've got a dark mix, and just alongside some of these streaks, not painting all the way up them because otherwise it'll look too thick and ungainly, but just flicking alongside them. And if you get part of the greenery covered in the paint, then you get a nice sort of shadow effect. See, like that. Now there's another way of producing short grasses. As well as using the bristle brush, you can just stab in and dab in, flick with the rigger. Right, now we've produced thin light grasses using masking fluid. Let's have a look now at using thin light grasses using gouache. Right, now there's the colour we've got now, but it'll still be very light when we come to paint that. You can see there with these colours, it's got a warmth to it. It's not pure white. It's got a nice light to it, but it's definitely not white. Let's just paint them alongside here so you can see the comparisons of the two. Oh yeah, and what I must do is just paint these sheep. Now all I'm doing is painting a few little blobs for the sheep here and there, like that. Just a few little flicks in the background, literally a few blobs. Right, I'm just going to take some of that dark colour that we've got, that raw sienna and burnt umber and blue, and I'm just going to just paint on the right hand side of them, just so there's a hint of some sort of shadow there. Right, we'll have our little couple along the lane. We'll paint one of them in a bright red jacket and the other one in a bright blue jacket, so it stands out. Nice little focal point. We'll just create a nice shadow mix, and I always find this works for me. Ultramarine blue, permanent rose, or you can use alizarin crimson if you haven't got permanent rose, and some people use burnt sienna, some people use burnt umber. I tend to use light red. Before I forget, we put a little shadow in for each of the sheep here and there. We'll put some shadows over the road for these bushes. In fact, I think we'll manufacture a shadow from somewhere over on the left hand side, somewhere here, perhaps from this bush here that's coming down across the lane and then like that, and partially across the lane again. Well, there we are, the finished picture. And as you can see, I've used rather more brushes and painting instruments than I would normally ever use in a watercolour painting. But I hope you've seen from what techniques we have used in this painting how simple and how straightforward it is to achieve things like middle distance trees and bushes and hedges, focal point trees, foreground bushes as well, and above all these foreground grasses, both in gouache and using masking fluid. And you saw even the sheep are only a few blobs of white gouache with a little bit of dark added to the shadow side, and there you have it, a beautiful country lane scene, late evening, late summer, added to immeasurably by using the cream coloured paper that's helped to bring the whole atmosphere together. I hope you have a go at this, and I hope you enjoy the scene as much as these sheep and these people here seem to be doing as well. So there we are, there's a DVD on trees and some of the examples we produced with some of the tutorials. And don't forget, we produced long, tall, thin trees like palms and short, fat olives, and we've done trees in the autumn, we've done summer and winter trees in the spring, we've done trees covered with snow. Now of course you can see how easy it is to use masking fluid to reserve highlights in some of the tree portraits that we've done. You can see by using gouache how we're able to create snow scenes, as well as adding thin grasses in the foreground of some of the tutorials. Okay, so what's next on the agenda? Well, we're going to look at water in all its forms, whether it's a simple puddle in a farm field or by the side of the road, all the way through to crashing waves that are exploding onto rocks coming in from the ocean. And in between those two extremes, we look at things like nice harbour scenes with boats gently at rest. We look at rushing rivers cascading over rocky outcrops, rainy tutorials we'll do, all sorts of different water-based tutorials.